Please welcome Diane Sayers for U.S. Senate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so as he said, I'm Diane Sayers. I'm a LaRouche independent candidate for U.S. Senate. The reason why Chuck Schumer has been in office for 42 years, 18 in the House, 24 in the Senate, is because both parties have a deal not to challenge him, and the Republican Party is upholding that this year with a candidate named No Pinion, who has no opinion. And if you go to his website, and they're doing it again. And you can think of what Trump told Rachel Maddow when, Schumer told Rachel Maddow, remember President Trump, and actually apparently this originated with General Michael Flynn, wanted to audit the intelligence agencies. Now people know these intelligence agencies have done a phenomenal amount of good for the country. They've known about all kinds of crimes like the Boston Marathon bombers and the Parkland shooters and this and they organized, the FBI organized the Whitmer kidnappers, and they organized the '93 World Trade Center bombing. So we have a great deal to be grateful to these intelligence agencies for. So Schumer said to Rachel Maddow about Trump's intention, which apparently was initiated by General Michael Flynn, who had his own experience as a DIA. He was in Syria working for the Obama administration, and he said, I don't think arming Al-Qaeda and ISIS is a really good idea. Don't think we should do that. Of course, he was fired. He came in and they destroyed him because they did not want him anywhere near Trump. He said we should audit the intelligence agencies. Trump picked up on this. Schumer told Maddow, that is stupid because they have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you. And so they did. Now, we have an interesting situation today because if we organize and fight, and I really appreciate Phil McManus, because you have the courage to bring mavericks together. You got to do it, and especially in a time like this, all of what they do will backfire, as surely as the 17 intelligence agencies who deployed to get Hillary Clinton elected failed to do it. We have an opportunity right now, but it is also extremely dangerous, and that's what I wanted to speak with you about. The Buffalo shooter. On his manifesto and supposedly on his body armor, which all of this has now sort of been removed from the press as quickly as possible, you had a logo, the black sun. That is a Nazi logo. But you know who else wears that logo on their uniform? Exactly. The Azov Battalion in Ukraine. Okay, we are funding Nazis in Ukraine, and you're not allowed to say this. And you know, and Victoria Nuland was forced to admit that there are 30 bioweapons laboratories in Ukraine, and the Russians have documentation that the United States was doing experiments even on Ukrainian soldiers. That's how much we care about these Ukrainian soldiers. We're willing to tell them to keep fighting, because you know, Ukraine can beat Russia, right? I mean, you know, Mexico could beat the US, right? So if we had an operation to go in and clean out the drug cartels in Mexico, and someone said, oh, you Mexicans, you just keep fighting, we're going to send you billions of dollars of weapons, you would say, well, obviously you want the Mexican people to be ground up into hamburger meat.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we are doing. Ukraine is just being used for the intention to destroy Russia, but it is not only Russia. It is every sovereign nation. And in 2019, there was a conference at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where Mark Carney, who was then the head of the Bank of England, now he's the head of the climate something or other at the United Nations, he said, we need regime change. We can't have sovereign nations making their own policy. We need a central banker's dictatorship. Prince Charles at the COP26 FLOP conference called it Global Britain. What did they say? No more fossil fuels, no more food. One of the really nifty results of getting a war between Ukraine and Russia is that those two countries produce 30% of the world's wheat. Exactly. Ukraine produces 50% of the grain for the World Food Program. The world already, you need about a half a ton of grain per capita. So with 8 billion people on the planet, you would need 4 billion tons per year. We only produce 3 billion now. Okay, with this disruption, they are saying that 1.7 billion people on the world could be affected by famine. The American farmers wanted to increase food production, but our genius Agriculture Secretary Vilsack said you cannot bring land out of the set-aside program and grow food because that would be bad for the climate.
Wow.
So now India, on the other hand, has decided to increase food production because they want to do something to offset the shortages. But that's the issue. So we are going to send, Biden wanted 33 billion, but our idiot Congress with a few dissenting voices said, no, why should we only give a bunch of Nazis $30 billion? Let's give them $40 billion. And then we're surprised when a Nazi kid shoots up a store to specifically kill black people. We're surprised when we are funding Nazis. And he had the same logo as the Christchurch killer who did the massacre at the mosque, who was trained with the Azov battalion. So we have a very serious problem. And I can tell you they are determined that I not get on this ballot. I have 3 lawyers working on this. They changed the law, as you know, if you don't run with a party, you have to get 45,000 signatures in 6 weeks. Derek knows that now. So I need your signatures. I need people to help circulate it, but you cannot circulate it if you've signed for another Senate candidate. So if you sign that petition that people are saying is for Lee Zeldin, but it has no opinion on it, you cannot petition for me. You cannot sign my petition, but you can donate. Now, what do we do about this? One, you got to call your congressman, because the media is trying to stampede them into getting us into World War III. You have to think what it means. The New York Times leaked this. The U.S. provided intelligence to assassinate 12 Russian generals. Colonel Vindman, you remember that name? Colonel Vindman. Why did they run the impeachment of Donald Trump? Because he had a phone call with Zelensky and told him we were going to stop sending weapons to Ukraine. Now, Biden had threatened to cut off $1 billion in aid to Ukraine and bragged about it on national television if they would not stop, had to stop investigating his son.
Right.
So he had a bribe tied to a political operation. Trump was talking about cutting off weapons. Colonel Vindman was the guy who ran that to get the impeachment going. Colonel Vindman is now saying that we should make sure we send Ukraine weapons that will allow them to launch strikes deep into Russia's territory. There is something in international law called a co-belligerent. The U.S. is a co-belligerent. Under international law, Russia would be within their rights to strike our nation. They don't want to. Putin doesn't want to do that. Thankfully, he is extremely level-headed. He is a judo master and all kinds of other things. He's not going to do that unless we create a circumstance under which Russia feels an existential threat. That is what we are marching towards. So first, you've got to get to your congressman and tell them that contrary to the garbage in the news media, you do not think we should be arming a bunch of Nazis in Ukraine. The media is claiming that 73% of the American people think we should have a war with Russia. I don't think so. But they won't, okay, they won't know that. All right, very quickly, I have a minute. So, what do we have to get back to? The purpose of economy is not money. It's mankind. The way you measure, and this was Lyndon LaRouche's breakthrough in physical economy, the way you measure your economy is by man's power over nature. How many people can you sustain in a given area of land burning wood, burning coal, burning petroleum? How about if you get to nuclear power? How much fuel do you need in fission compared to coal? How much fuel do you need if we develop fusion? How much energy will you get from a gram of heavy water or helium-3 in a thermonuclear fusion reaction? And that gives man power to transform nature, to green the deserts, to make land habitable where we currently can't live. The United States has not built a new city in decades. We cannot fix this city. And that can be changed, and believe me, if we have a policy of doing that and preparing the United States to have 1 billion people, which is what we should have, our children will not have time to sit around and wonder what gender they are. They will be busy learning math, learning science, and that's the fight. So I would ask for your support. Thank you very much for having me.